Hello, my name is Friederike Wagner. I work as an entrepreneurship facilitator at EIT Food. EIT Food is the European Institute of Innovation and Technology in the area of food, nutrition and agriculture. We are the world's largest and most dynamic innovation community when it comes to food. And that's why food ecosystem lies at heart of our work. And I'm very happy to give you a quick introduction to this topic. I'm going to go for a very pragmatic approach and will first talk about the why and the how of ecosystem building. And then we'll highlight some specific challenges that we are facing when building an ecosystem in the food sector. So let's dive into this. Why should we engage into ecosystem building? We are living in a highly complex and intertwined world with very complex systems around us that make it impossible to solve problems on our own. As a person or as a company, we have to build an environment around us that allows us to quickly access knowledge and information and to quickly partner up with experts when we face needs and challenges. We need a support system. An ecosystem builds this secure environment for growth where we are able to counterbalance the own lacks that we are having with expertise and experience that we find in the system around us. In this sense, an ecosystem accelerates the flow of information, which we need in a complex world. But it is more than that. An ecosystem also allows us to use our resources more efficiently and effectively when connecting to the community around us. I can give you a little example. Let's say we have two institutions or companies that want to organize an event about alternative proteins. So they do it together, they join in collaboration. What happens? They cut their costs in half, but they double the audience they might be able to direct their invitations to. And they also double their experience and knowledge about the topic itself and about organizing these events. So with less input, they are able to create more output for all. And with using synergies, they might be able then to do two events instead of just one. And with working closely together, they might also notice that they're slightly different from one each other, and how they are positioned regarding a certain topic area. That is also one big benefit of being part of an ecosystem. It sharpens your value proposition. How are you different to other players? What can you offer to the system? And what's your USP? And talking about USP, the fun fact here is that the EIT Food USP is exactly that, ecosystem building. And I want you to have a look at the graphic at the right side. We saw that we can only drive innovation in the food system when we manage to build a community that cuts across the whole food value chain. That's why we work in a so-called knowledge triangle. We bring together higher education institutions, research centers, nonprofits, as much as industry partners like corporates and startups, because a student team cannot realize an innovative business idea when it's not compatible with industry practices. But the industry also relies on new ideas and new research and someone that is translating these into new policy frameworks, right? So only if we establish a solid ecosystem, we can make sure that new ideas can transition into sustainable business models, and that innovation can get from the university to the markets. I hope the why became clear with these explanations. So let's move to the trickier part, the how. In order to build an ecosystem, we have to engage a lot into networking. And while this might sound very simple at first sight, it actually takes a lot of effort, I can tell you. It means to put yourself out there a lot and to attend as many events as possible, seek as many conversations as possible. You cannot build an ecosystem sitting at home in front of your PC screen and Google the players around you, because you will not be able to then actually recognize the dynamics among the players in the field. Who is in competition? Who is already having an easy time of collaborating? Who might be a hidden champion in a certain topic? Who hasn't had any touching points yet? Because that's where the ecosystem builder gets in to bridge gaps, right? And creates collaboration where potential has been neglected. The ecosystem builder has to do a stakeholder mapping and stay at a macro perspective. It is not so much about deep diving into many different topics. It's about staying at the surface and connecting the dots. So I always see also this ecosystem builder profile as the profile of a generalist, to put it like that. Ecosystem building and networking have also a very human element. When people have to, where people have to trust in you to turn situations of potential competition into fruitful collaboration. You have to foster a culture of invitation and of being very inclusive. The more diverse the members of your ecosystem are, the more opportunities you might find in your system. Also, the more trust you are able to earn, the more the ecosystem turns into a self-sustaining and self-engaging mechanism. And I like to think about it as an outbound-inbound strategy. At first, you go out there a lot, you expose yourself a lot, you drop certain topics and projects you want to initiate until the system gets activated and people start getting back to you. Like, oh, Friederike, I heard you are interested in bringing together startups, farmers, and students. I happen to know a farmer that has a new idea and is seeking to have contact to startups. Yeah, these things start to happen eventually. The ecosystem will gain momentum, but it takes a long while until reaching this moment, which brings me to the challenges and the next slide. What makes it harder to build an ecosystem in the food sector compared with other sectors? Well, food is a very emotional topic. It is very value-driven for many people because it connects to environmental destruction, to biodiversity loss, to animal welfare, to climate change, to population growth, to diseases, etc. And all of these topics are quite urgent, right? They require quick adaptations. And we all know that quick changes cause frictions. And there can be a lot of fear and resistance towards new ideas. People might be afraid of losing their jobs. People might be afraid of losing their identities. People might be afraid of losing their traditions, right? Another factor is that in the food sector, we also have strong lobby groups, like, for example, the meat and the dairy industry. And we also face old divisions, like, for example, the organic and the conventional farmer practices. All these aspects obviously make it harder to bring people together. And one further factor I would like to stress here is that there is a big alienation between consumers and producers in the food sector that is bigger than in other sectors. Producers in the food sector face a lot of regulations, very high regulations and requirements for certain standards that consumers are officially demanding, but when it comes to their actual willingness of buying and then paying a higher price for quality, we see specifically in the food sector that there is a big attitude behavior gap. It is not like, for example, with a car that I want to get a German Mercedes because I value high quality and I'm happy to pay a higher price for that. To give you an oversimplified reference, in the food sector, it is fairly more difficult and it requires still a lot more work to create awareness, understanding, and new opportunities of collaboration. But also the fact that it might be a little harder to build up an ecosystem in the food system just proves the relevance of it, right? So I hope I could inspire you a little bit to join in building a vibrant community to create a better future for all of us. And with that, I leave you our contact details, and I hope that we stay in touch, that we engage, that we meet each other at one of the networking events in Munich, Bavaria, or Europe. And we're happy to attend you. Take care, and thank you for listening.